Chapter 1. One Too Many Zeros. Bright. Hee hee. A laugh that sounded like it belonged to a perverse old man rang. Finally. Finally. Inside a tiny room filled to the brim with various differing collectibles, the originator of the laugh could be seen hunched over a laptop. Unexpectedly, said originator of the laugh wasn't an old man, but something completely different. A girl. A cute little girl at that. One that was currently grinning something fierce. Staring at the screen of his laptop, Bright reread the email he received once more. A squeal more befitting of his current appearance suddenly and unwittingly escaped. Today couldn't get any better. After all this time, the labors of his carefully crafted persona were starting to bear fruit. Starting tomorrow, Bright will officially be the first and only student of the greatest hero to live. That alone was enough to get most people excited, but that fact alone was almost worthless to Bright. What got him excited was something else entirely. Something tangible, something more valuable than useless fame or accolades. Something more valuable than life itself. Compensation. In this case, cold hard cash. Born into a world where the average person makes only about 65,000 credits a year, receiving 10 million credits a month put him in a pretty good spot. As good a spot as one could possibly hope to be in. Rolling around in his bed, Bright thought about tomorrow. The contract stated he would receive his first pay upon the starting date. Meaning, by the end of tomorrow, Bright was going to be a multimillionaire. Not too bad for a two-time orphan, right? Digging around his bed, Bright grabbed his phone and quickly shot out a text. He needed to brag right now, and badly so. Grabbing a hat, he tucked his hair away, threw on a pair of sweatpants, and wore a hoodie which he pulled up before reaching for the door and pausing. A mask was missing. With a sigh, he turned and began his search. Having a face that was cute enough to draw people around was bad enough, but then layering on top of it fame made it much worse. Being constantly approached by people was plain terrible. Even here in this government student housing for abilities users, the attention was too much. Finally finding the mask, Bright donned it and, in one motion, left. Good fortunes awaited him, he could feel it. Scarlet eyes reflected back Bright as he relaxed on the bench. Tucking in the golden strands of hair that had managed to escape, he sighed and put away his phone. I need sunglasses. Despite expertly hiding, his eyes had still managed to get him figured out. A good 30 minutes disappeared like that. Not that I can afford them anyway, HAAA. A bitter taste lingered in Bright's mouth. The money provided by the government was truly a pitiful sum. A mere 1,000 credits a month. How was a person supposed to survive with that? Ironically, when Bright had anonymously vented these frustrations online, he was met with very harsh words. Some going as far as stating the government shouldn't be providing money to government-supported ability users. It was completely unbelievable. Okay, sure, the government provided for meals, housing, general bills, and even entertainment to some extent, but that was beside the point. Bright still needed money. How else was he going to enjoy his generally frowned-upon hobbies? You can't exactly play slots or freely shop without cash. A memory of the good old times flashed. Bright quickly fell depressed. Without a word, he pulled down his mask. God damn it. Balling his fists, Bright felt a familiar pain well up in his chest. Having this body meant enjoying his favorite hobbies openly was now impossible. A task now only relegated to online spaces. In the past, before Bright was known to the general public, He had tried both and was promptly escorted to the reception desk. It didn't matter what he said. The kind staff would smile, give him treats while calling him very brave, and look for his parents. Both times the director of the orphanage hadn't been one bit pleased. What happened to no cursing? The grinding of mental hinges caused Bright to wince. Here, on the rooftop of the student housing, high above the world. The noise was especially grating. Come on, that doesn't count. I'm not in front of people. Turning to address the source of the disturbance, Bright couldn't help but grumble a bit. A man dressed similarly to him walked out of the rooftop entrance with undue bravado. Though unlike Bright, he wore a fancy pair of sunglasses. In fact, if one were to look at him closely, they could quickly tell his clothes were of a different make and quality, which is to say, they were crazy expensive. A cool, calm voice spoke. Am I not a person? Not with the way he usually dressed. What's with the face? Nothing. The man who now sat beside Bright was someone he had known his whole life, this life at least. He was the chairman of the organization that ran the orphanage he used to live at. An easygoing philanthropist who had a soft spot for children and sought to take care of them. Since Bright could remember, this man accompanied by his assistant would routinely visit the orphanage, spending 1 or 2 entire days just entertaining the kids. It was by these visits that Bright gradually drew close to them. Close enough that he would dare call them his first friends. Not that he couldn't make friends at the orphanage. He had plenty of friends, of course. It wasn't like he was constantly left alone because the others thought he was weird. No way such a thing could have happened. Anyway, did you need some more advice? Letting out a light cough, Bright quickly pulled out his phone. The so-called advice the chairman was referring to was terrible. It was about how to be a good hero, and besides the basics, this man had no idea what he was talking about. Everything he said was so unconventional it bordered on unlawful. Bright needed to change the subject. Look at this. Showcasing his proof of acceptance, Bright felt a warm feeling take over his body. He'd made it to the big leagues. The chairman glanced at the phone. All right, you now have a mentor. Huh? How? How on earth was that his only takeaway? Did you read it? All of it. Yes, it's the contract letter sent by Hero Sun's agency. So. The chairman paused for a moment before seemingly having an moment. Ah, right. He reached out his hand. Wow, amazing stuff. Good job. An unenthusiastic reply accompanied by a couple of head pats were given. Bright felt his cheeks burn. What's with that response? The chairman, out of everyone Bright knew, pushed him the hardest to become a hero once his powers awakened. For 2 years to this date, they always shared any successes relating to his progress. From advancing his powers to maintaining a good reputation. Be more excited already. Oh, sorry, but I mean, everyone already knows this? It made news when it was announced, remember? But you still weren't excited then. The words Bright wanted to shout came out as inaudible whispers. He had thought initially when it was announced and didn't see the chairman have much of a reaction, it was because things were not official. Now that they were, he was at least expecting some genuine praise. The chairman cleared his throat. Aren't you worried it's going to be hard? How could he so shamelessly try to change the topic? Bright frowned. Why was he so determined to rain on his parade today? You still underestimate me too much. Pushing down the bitter feelings, Bright gave a sly smile. So, what if he didn't care? It didn't change the fact that tomorrow he will be getting paid. Don't you know who you are talking to? Bright was quite literally a rising star, and for good reason. His ability, daylight, allowed him to absorb light from any source, mainly the sun, and store it within his body. This stored energy could then be used to fire massively destructive light beams and enhance speed, strength, and thinking capacity. Bright was an all-rounder because of that. A fact he showed off during multiple tournaments and small local monster hunting expeditions held by the school. It was part of the reason a few weird rumors started floating around. In his generation, there was no one better than him. After going off on a little rant about that, Bright felt his mouth start to go a little numb. Ugh, this isn't worth it. Never mind that. Is the vice chair coming? She would at least give a decent response. She's a bit busy today, unfortunately. You'll see her soon, promise. The blasé response left tons of questions open, but as tempted as Bright was to ask, he had learnt better by now. These donors that basically owned the orphanage were a complete enigma to him. A truth hard to admit, considering they made up the majority of his friends. Despite knowing them for just a little over a decade, he still didn't know a thing about them. Any topic related to them was always answered vaguely. The purpose of which, as he was told by the director, was to protect their identities. Apparently, they were some big-shot actors or businesspersons or something of the sort. Bright scoffed at the thought. It would explain why they always dressed like robbers, but seriously, he couldn't help thinking there were easier ways to hide. Feeling a headache coming on, Bright decided to leave. It was about time to leave. There was nothing more to talk about anyway. Could you lend me a few credits again? But not before leaving with a little something. The chairman's face instantly soured. Well, that's a little rude. I'll pay back this time for sure. How about paying me back what you already owe? Bright resisted the desire to roll his eyes. How could an already rich person be so greedy as to take money from a little kid? Oh, come on. Don't be like that. Please. Bright pulled down his hood, removed his hat, and scouted closer to the chairman. He was feeling lucky today. He needed the extra cash for some pulls. The chairman, with squinted eyes, asked a simple question. What do you need the money for? Food. Is that so? Why, yeah, the food at the accommodation sucks. It's always the same stuff, you know? I just want to get a small treat this time, considering how hard I've worked my ass off. Well, have I got some good news for you then? The chairman reached behind his back and pulled out what appeared to be a lunchbox. The vice chair asked me to pass on this. It should be enough, right? Staring at the lunchbox with hollow eyes, Bright smiled. Yes, tell her I said thank you. He took it from the chairman's hands. Leaving already? Bright paused for a second. I've got to prepare for tomorrow. See you later then. Yeah, see you. Hurriedly walking over to the rooftop entrance, Bright yanked the door open while muttering under his breath. Stingy man. How could security allow such a shady man in? A mental door swung shut with thunderous force. The man sitting on the bench let out a soft chuckle before pulling out his phone. It was ringing. Hello, hello. He greeted politely. How is she? And was promptly ignored. Conceding to the exceedingly cold voice of the woman, He soldiered on still. Expecting her to suddenly change was meaningless. She's doing well. A short silence followed. Did you remember to congratulate her? Of course, how could I forget? Another silence followed. The man felt tempted to tease her by letting the silence continue, but ultimately decided against it. He knew why she called even if she would never admit it. She really loved the food. Really? Yes, she was super thankful and everything. Uh-huh. Softly laughing at that awkward response, the man decided to carry on with questions of his own. Are all her papers in order? Yes. What about the living arrangements? I've taken the liberty to arrange for the movers to stop by as soon as she leaves. Wonderful. Tomorrow was going to be an exciting day. I guess that's all. Love. The phone abruptly cut. A weary smile drew on the man. Getting up from the bench, he stretched lightly before setting his ruby-red eyes on the horizon. In a blink, he was gone.